If you're working for 40 plus hours a week, you don't have the luxury of being able to like go sit in a classroom and ask questions and like get private tutors and stuff like that. But chat is your private tutor.
Welcome to the Innovation Forge, where I'll be sharing the quick strike interviews recorded at Slate Summit 2025.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysart.
What happens after the first build? After you've figured out how to run the query, launch the form, or even just surviving your first cycle prep? What's next? The truth is, scaling Slate work isn't about knowing more tricks. It's about building systems that last. The cultures that can adapt, and the tools that serve the mission, not just the moment. In this episode, we sit down with 7 more thinkers, builders, and strategists from across the Slate community who aren't just using the tool. They are actually shaping how their institutions move through complexity. You'll hear why AI is changing more than just how we work, how governance can save you from compounding chaos, and what it means to build your Slate instance in a right way, even if no one's defined what that is yet. This one's for the sustainers, the planners, and the quiet architects behind clean data and clear decisions. Welcome to Quick Strikes, recorded at Slate Summit 2025. This is episode 2. Let's see how sustainability takes shape today. Hi, Jasmine. Thank you so much for doing the interview. If you could, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, what's your name, where you work, and a fun fact.
Sure. Hi, I'm Jasmine Solomon, and I work at New York University. I work in our undergraduate admissions office, managing our instance of Slate.
Awesome.
And a fun fact is I make a photo calendar of my girls every year, and this year's theme is Star Trek, and they both have red shirts, so it's going to be some great photos.
That's fantastic and very exciting. Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit more about AI in admissions?
Sure. So I co-lead the NACAC AI and College Admissions Group, and just started today, the first day of Summit, the Slate AI group as well, with all of the Slate AI features that are coming out. And with AI and admissions, what I really think is the crux of it, especially if you're like myself on the operations or technical side of it, is really getting your users ready for it. The students are ready. The students are using it. They don't need help. They found it. They're there. They're doing it. It's really upskilling your staff and like teaching them what prompt engineering is and getting them ready to understand how it's already integrated in almost all of the tools they use. And now it'll be more integrated in Slate. And they just need to be prepared to understand what that means in their work, to understand that AI is fallible and that you can't just take what it spits out and run with it, that you have to check it. So that's part of why my favorite feature that came out today is the AI snippets, because then I can write good prompts for the staff who need to use them so that they get the result that they need, instead of them telling me after the feature is rolled out, it doesn't work. And I'm like, does it not work, or did you not work with it well? Which is it?
Yeah, when they first talked about it, I'm like, I hope there's some kind of snippet functionality. I'm like, oh, AI snippets, fantastic. So are there any strategies that you have found helpful or that you plan on trying to help with that staff adoption and socializing just AI in admissions?
Yeah, so at NYU, we've started our own UGA AI group that are kind of like the core folks that are cross-functional and go across all our different departments that are already engaging with it. Like, you will definitely have people on your team who are also already engaging with it. Whether or not they're telling you probably has a lot to do with how your university positions AI and what they think about it, but they're using it. And so getting those champions together to help think of the use cases that make sense, that actually do work and work well now with the where AI technology is, really helps get the other folks on board and gets them excited about using it. And seeing it in action is also really helpful. We're a Google for Education school, so we have Gemini. If you're a Microsoft school, you probably have Copilot. So just go with whichever product is native to your school's ecosystem and do those easy use cases, and that'll really help your users feel comfortable.
That's great advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. And if folks want to find you and chat a little bit more about this?
Yeah, well, if you are a Slate user, which you probably are, if you're listening to this, then you should definitely join the Slate AI new user group space there. It'll really be mostly a discussion board where we can really have these conversations and continue this dialogue. If you're in the admissions world, then join us in AI and College Admissions, which is a LinkedIn group, or you can find us at edhub.ai, so that's edhub.ai. And from there, you can link to our YouTube channel, LinkedIn group, events, all of those great resources. And if you just want to find me, you can message me in the community or find me on LinkedIn.
Well, thank you so much for doing the interview. And then, of course, everything that you do for admissions in the Slate community, whether it's AI or at scale, just everything. And community ambassador, yeah. The very full dance card. Thank you for taking time to do the interview. And I hope you have a great rest of Summit. Thank you so much, Leah, for doing the podcast for a third time. I really appreciate your patience. It's recording this time, so I think we're good. Can you introduce yourself, where you work, and a fun fact? One of your many fun facts.
All of them. My name is Leah Stiff, and I work for New Mexico State University, but I'm based remotely in California, so hi, Californians. My fun fact is that I've never been to public school. A little bit outdated because I'm nearing 30, so oh well, but it's going to be my forever fun fact. But yeah, I was homeschooled my whole life until I went to college.
Also homeschooled. Very fun fact. Love it. Yeah. Really well-rounded bunch of folks we are, huh?
Yeah,
just talking into microphones for two people. Yeah.
It's very homeschooled.
This is very homeschool coded, guys.
Oh gosh, we're identifying ourselves.
So, what is your Slate BFF? What helps you do Slate better?
My BFF is AI. Oh my gosh. Originally ChatGPT kind of went into DeepSeek, and now I'm definitely planning to use the AI features that they just announced at Summit. I'm very excited for that. I think AI it's a hot topic right now, but it's a little bit of a fearful topic. But for me, I just think it's so useful to learn things in a quicker way, because originally I was going to go back to school for a master's and learn JavaScript and coding and everything, and the amount of time it would have taken. And I'm not saying don't do that. Caveat, if
Higher education podcast. You go at school.
I know, I'm still promoting go get your degree at some university. I don't know. Sorry, competition. But I will say that AI is just useful in explaining things in a bunch of different ways. And so if you're trying to learn something quickly and you're not understanding it, you can just prompt it to explain it in a different way or give illustrations and everything. And you could just feed it things and say, what is this code even doing? Or how would I get there? And what is the step-by-step? And you can pinpoint things. And I love interactive classroom environments, but when you're working for 40 hours a week, probably more, knowing all of us, but if you're working for 40 plus hours a week, you don't have the luxury of being able to go sit in a classroom and ask questions and get private tutors and stuff like that. But chat is your private tutor. And so yeah, I've learned a lot of coding and a lot of things that I never thought I would be able to do by using it. And yeah, I say don't fear the AI, lean into it and allow it to make your job easier. It will not replace you because you're still the brains behind the mission. So don't fear it.
I like the brains behind the mission. That's great. I love just the little takeaway things that people have said on the podcast, and that's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of fun takeaways.
Cool.
That's definitely one of them.
On the third take, I said something useful.
I'm just, oh, whoops, I deleted it. Let's try one more time.
Let me refresh the quotes.
But yeah, so if folks wanted to reach out and talk to you more about this kind of stuff?
You can find me on LinkedIn at Leah Stiff, Stiff as a board, Stiff as in dead. Or you can email me, lstiff@nmsu.edu. But yeah, I'd love to hear how you're using AI and also your fears and your concerns about it, because it's also a valid, I sympathize with, I validate your concerns, so, but I'd love to just chat and connect with more people, so.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing the podcast for 3 straight times, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Summit.
Thanks. You too.
Well, thank you, Dustin, so much for doing the podcast. Maybe you can just introduce yourself, where you work, and a fun fact for the audience.
Sure. My name's Dustin Gerstenfield, and I work at MassBay Community College outside of Boston. And a fun fact about me is I'm running the Berlin Marathon in September. I won a bib this year, so I'm really excited to do that. Nervous, but excited.
Well, I asked you, like, do you have a fun fact? You're like, yeah, I guess I can. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's not going to be. No, it's exciting. Berlin Marathon, it's fine. Yeah.
It's nothing.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So, as you've been in admissions and IT, how have you seen technology evolve to serve the institution, the students, and even you as a professional?
It's changed a lot in my time. I started in admissions in 2003 as a student worker and have progressed in my career and using technology and focusing on systems and how we use them to make our processes easier as staff members, but also using it to facilitate interactions with students, and it's changed a lot. We've been able to be a little bit more nimble, be more responsive to students, give them up-to-date information, and particularly with the tools that are available these days, we're looking at my institution, we're looking at how we can incorporate AI into some of our processes to be able to reduce the amount of time that staff spend on those kind of, day-to-day rote tasks, to be able to spend more time thinking and working with our students and creating more of a personalized experience.
No, that's so great. And I'm sure this was an exciting summit feature rollout then. Is there anything from the features announced that you're particularly excited about in that kind of domain?
Yeah, I'm really excited about the new AI features where we can go in and create portals using AI tools. We're a new Slate school, so we've only been in Slate since actually, it's been about a year now. We started in June. Our other CRM went out of business, so we had to kind of do a flash changeover. And so we've been kind of building the plane, or learning as we're flying the plane. And so it's been a challenge, but it's been really fun. Slate's a great tool to use. It's easy to learn. And so by having the AI tool to be able to help us build portals, this is kind of where we're stuck right now. I think that's really going to be great because we're a smaller college. We don't have a ton of staff, so being able to kind of tap into the things and tap into the tools and be able to bring an idea to fruition is exciting.
Yeah, I love how it's just going to empower institutions to be able to do more with less time because guess what? We're being asked to do more with less. So that's wonderful. And if folks want to reach out to you or contact you, what's the best way?
Yeah, they can reach out via LinkedIn. If you just search Dustin Gerstenfield, Gerstenfield, you'll find me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dustin. I really appreciate this, and I hope you have a great rest of your summit.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, John, for coming and joining me for a smaller, shorter interview. Your longer interview is coming up soon, or depending on when this gets posted, it might have already happened. I'm not committing to anything. But maybe you can tell me name, where you work out, and a fun fact.
Yeah, sure. My name is John Thornton. I CRM manager at Oregon State University. And I guess a fun fact for me is I am bilingual in English and Japanese. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
Okay, so you're just going to do the whole interview in Japanese. I'm just going to look at you blankly. And this is going to be fantastic. But so what is kind of sparking innovation for you here at Summit?
Yeah, so I did a presentation on kind of an event scheduler and trying to build that out. And it's been fun that other individuals have been doing portals around other schedules and more around general events that don't require registration, and seeing people use data sets to build out those types of agendas was something that is not an approach that I had originally considered for some of our larger events, and it's a type of technology that, or set up for your portal that I would love to bring back to Oregon State. So I'd say that's one of the big pieces. And then seeing some of the features this morning with Alexander and some of the new additions to the live editor and the portal and the nested dictionary exports, I'm ready for redoing a lot of my portals that I created.
Yeah, a lot of the quality of life updates. I'm like, ooh, this is nice. I'm gonna like this. Great, thank you so much for sharing that with the community. I'm glad that you were able to present and share your knowledge, but also be inspired by other people doing similar things. Where can folks find you at?
You're welcome to find me at my email, Thorn, THORNJON at OregonState.edu, or feel free to find me on LinkedIn. It's Jonathan Thornton. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. Enjoy the rest of Summit. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Hello, Robbie. Thank you for joining me here for an interview. Maybe you can introduce yourself, where you work, and a fun fact about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Robbie Kozad. I am the director of CRM at Oklahoma State University at our Center for Health Sciences. Our medical school has our own Slate instance separate from the main university, and so we're mostly a 1 to 2 person shop where we get to do it all in Slate. Yeah, so fun fact, I was once quoted on the front page of a newspaper using the word buttload.
So you just really zero it in on that for all future instances. Yeah. And what's maybe like a Slate or data best practice that you'd have?
Yeah, so I think for us, so much of what we focus on in our instance, in our use for Slate, is sort of trying to track cradle to grave our med students. And so a lot of that involves both importing data from all sorts of other sources, whether it be their residencies, their clinical rotations, things like that, so that then we can track and try to predict where that next generation of students come from. And so much of that is the data normalization and trying to tie all of these different bits together and just what is one row per person or one row per report, right? And so we've struggled with, in our instance, to often have a consistent, unique identifier all throughout their sort of lifetime, because we don't get access to social security numbers necessarily, especially in our data exports from some of these other tools. And so that's been a lot of ours. We've actually made a data set just of IDs, right? Where all of our records have all of these various associated IDs, and then we can sort of make a matrix to jump between them whenever applicable. And so that's really been our growing pain, and what's allowed us to get as far as we have, though, is just focusing on how to tie all those data streams together.
That's so interesting. I love that. It's definitely a use case for data sets I've never even heard of before. So that's so awesome. I would love to have you on for a full interview at some point if you're open to it. Now, do you want to talk any more about this buttload article that you were?
Yes. So oddly, there was I was working at the Red Cross at the time, and there was a large fire in the downtown of my hometown, Galesburg, Illinois, the O.T. Johnson fire, if anybody wants to Google that. And was working Red Cross and was giving a report to the newspaper in the days following the fire about sort of what we did and how we reacted. And I absolutely used the quote, "We went and got a buttload of coffee." I did go back afterwards and during my shame period and find out that B-U-T-T, is a unit of measure in Old English for a cask head or something like that. Like, when we're talking more barrels and things like that. So I may have technically been okay, but was not my proudest moment using buttload on the front page of the paper in response to a large traumatic fire.
That's fair. We all make those kinds of missteps, though. And if folks wanted to find you and ask you more about this, either the article or anything you talked about.
That would be pretty hard to do. I'm not particularly socially media active. I am on LinkedIn, Robbie Kozad, C-O-Z-A-D. Other than that, you'd have to find me on the Oklahoma State directory.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Robbie, for taking the time to hop on for this interview. I hope you have a great rest of Summit.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. And maybe you could just introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, where you work, and a fun fact.
Yeah, my name is Megan Miller. I am a senior technology consultant with RHB. I've been at RHB for about 6 years now. And a fun fact about me is that when I was in college, I was trained as an opera singer before, obviously, I made the natural transition into technology from there.
I mean, obviously, what else do you do with opera than technology?
Opera singer, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very natural pipe.
So what is maybe a challenge that a school that is using Slate or maybe thinking about implementing Slate might hit?
Yeah. One of the things that I notice a lot and talk with the clients about a lot is really not just what are we using Slate for, how are we going to build it, but it's the question of how is Slate going to be governed and who's running the show here, really. There are a lot of, especially when we're getting into something as complex as student success, but even for admissions or a single department's use, there are going to be conflicting priorities and conflicting ideas about how the tool should be used, what are our priorities, what are the policies we're going to have in place. And if those aren't addressed early on, some of these issues can really compound. You have too many administrators who are conflicting with each other. You're rolling out things and your users aren't aware that they exist, or it's not clear how you're going to make decisions and prioritize things in your system, and then things don't get done. So when I am talking with clients, I'm frequently trying to identify who are the folks at the table who are going to be those decision makers. How do we ensure that there's a clear pipeline to communicate between our decision makers or our sponsors up at the top and all the way down to our end users, so that there's a clear understanding all the way up and down the chain of where to go if you have a problem with Slate, how to raise questions about Slate, how to identify opportunities, how to evaluate them, and how to set those priorities and roadmaps so that everyone understands what we're going to be, where we're going with Slate, what we're going to be using it for, or what we can be looking forward to in the future. Without that transparency, I think that we frequently see that shadow systems develop, even in a system that's as reliable and trustworthy as Slate, because there are so many different ways to do things. So if we don't have folks who are communicating policies and looking out for those kinds of things and making sure that our users are all well informed, we end up with compounding chaos, really is what I would call it.
Compounding chaos, I think that is something that a lot of people have experienced.
Yes.
If someone is already kind of in that spiral, do you have like a quick tip to kind of that first step on the right path?
Yeah, I think some of that really does need to come from the top, from leadership. And the thing I would always say is someone has to have the authority to say, this is what we're going to do or we're not going to do. One of the things that I really admire about some clients is the way that they have developed these really clear communication channels internally with their users. So administrators who are doing things like building a portal for information with their users, or schools that have developed Slate user newsletters or ongoing trainings to recap things that someone might have forgotten. If you haven't used a certain query tool in a while, maybe you need a refresher, but there's opportunities for the end users to start to engage with the administrators or with their power users in different ways. One of the things that I have recommended to a lot of schools is thinking about something like a Slate brown bag kind of approach, where once a month we're going to sit in a conference room and you can come in and ask us questions as Slate administrators and tell us about what's a challenge you're facing, or get clarification on something we're confused about right now. So bringing people in to talk with the administrators, because then what you're doing is you're not just helping those users do things better, but you're also identifying those themes and what are the challenges that I'm hearing a lot, where are there opportunities for more training or maybe we need to rethink the process because it's creating confusion. Creating that kind of that dialogue that can help expose those themes and also help you to develop new solutions as well. Just thinking about what's the user journey internally and what can we do to support that. And then going and identifying for these users, how can we establish some point people in those areas so that we can continue to hear that voice, move things forward, but also have someone who can communicate that back to the right folks.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much. Yep. And if folks want to reach out, contact you, what's the best way?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Megan M. G. Miller. Megan spelled M-E-G-A-N, the normal way, I would say, but no offense to any Megans with an H or an extra A out there, but find me on LinkedIn, or you can email me. It's mmiller@rhb.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing the podcast, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your summit.
You too.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Peter. If you can introduce yourself to the audience, name, where you work, and a fun fact.
Thank you so much for having me, David. I appreciate it. My name is Peter McKay. I am at Reworkflow, which is a Slate consulting agency. Before that, I was at Technolutions for several years and had a great time working with Alexander and the team. Fun fact about me, let's see, I would say probably that I have been living in Italy for the past year, and I've only been back in the USA for a couple days now, so still jet-lagged here at Summit, but having an awesome time so far.
A very international talent pool at Reworkflow.
It's definitely true. Actually, my CEO at Reworkflow, John, he lives in Vietnam. So I believe for a little while we were the first and only preferred partner to have presence on 3 continents.
That's a nice little feather in the cap. That's pretty awesome. And then what would you recommend as like some Slate tips?
Slate tips, such a broad question, but I really appreciate it. I think one of the things I always think about is making sure that you are up to date of what Slate best practices are. And what does that even mean? Sometimes people are always trying to figure out what those Slate best practices are. Because Slate changes so much, you really have to keep up to date, which, let's be honest, in my first couple years working in Slate, that was a little stressful. But I think that in the past number of years, the Slate community has become so much stronger that now we are all sharing that information on the Slate community. So the concept of a Slate best practice doesn't necessarily just come from Technolutions anymore. It comes from being crowdsourced in a lot of ways. And we always have to think about what's going to be the most efficient in Slate. How are we going to make sure that our Slate is sustainable for the future? And so as you're building things in Slate, making sure that you're building things the Slate way. And if you don't know what that Slate way is, well, then asking the community and figuring those things out. If you're building things the Slate way, then ultimately, if you need to get things into your SIS or another system, it's going to be easier that way. I've worked with clients before who have built their Slate only to match what their SIS needs. And it never works that direction. Slate is so flexible that you're able to get out that information and export that into such a wide variety of different systems and formats that you don't need to worry about what your SIS needs or what other needs are in other integrations. Build things the Slate best practice, and you'll be able to figure that out.
Yeah, the flexibility of Slate's so amazing. The number of times I've talked to IT for SIS, I'm like, you just tell me how you want it. Slate will put it out exactly that way, and everyone's life will be so much simpler than having to maintain the integration to do the data transformation.
Absolutely, it is totally true. Yeah, and always making sure that you are that you're thinking about the future is so important. When we talk about Slate best practice, you have to think about cycle prep as well. And here we are in this season where a lot of schools are doing cycle prep, and making sure that you're ready for that, knowing what that means over the course of the year, thinking, am I doing what is best practice? Do I have the time to fix that now? If not, let me put that on my list for cycle prep. I always recommend having a cycle prep list over the course of the year, because it is going to happen. At the end of the year, you're going to think, oh yeah, what was I going to do in cycle prep? Always keep that list and make sure that you're keeping up to date in Slate.
Such great tips for everyone in the Slate community here. So thank you so much for sharing that. Where can folks find you in ReWorkflow?
reworkflow.com. I think that's a great place to start. I would also say, since you're giving me the platform to talk about ReWorkflow, one of our best resources is the resource. So if you go to reworkflow.com and find the resource, that is our community available wiki. So all of our information we want to put out there for free to all of the Slate community. Read our articles. There are suitcase links there, all kinds of things that you can take. We're always updating that. We are part of the Slate community. We want to make sure that we're sharing our knowledge with you. And hopefully you'll ask us questions and engage on the community forums as well. So we'll hopefully see you on the community forums, and maybe at a future summit.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to do the interview, and for all the resources and empowerment that you and your whole team provides the community. Enjoy the rest of Slate.
Cheers.
This episode explored how Slate professionals can actually scale their thinking, building systems, shaping culture, and preparing for the future. It's about that middle phase of mastery, where you're no longer just making it work, you're trying to make it sustainable. These guests aren't beginners. They're system shapers, data modelers, AI adopters, and governance stewards. Again, if you liked this format of shorter interviews, let me know, and I'll be sure to do more of them. For those watching the video, or willing just to see our next mascot, I need a name for our segment, The Consultant Cadre. Send me an email at theinnovationforagepodcast@gmail.com, or find me on the socials like LinkedIn and Instagram to comment your suggestion. As always, I'll send the ebook of The Innovation Forge to all winning name submitters. If you enjoyed today's episode, please grow the guild by rating and reviewing the Innovation Forge podcast, or sharing it with a colleague who needs to hear about these creative crossovers in education. The best review or comment every month will get an ebook of my book, of course. Particularly great ones will also be featured on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Remember to strike true, and let's forge something extraordinary together.